Okay, so I just want to put this video out there about the Anita Sarkeesian Sargon of Akkad incident at Vidcon and Vidcon's debrief about it. If you don't know what happened at Vidcon between Sargon of Akkad and Anita Sarkeesian, there is a link in the description to a Mundane Matt video explaining what happened. He was there and explains what happened very well. Alright, let's have a look at the debrief to see what the Green brothers thought about the incident. Who's harassing whom? Vidcon has a tagline. It's for people who love online video. But of course, in addition to celebrating, this event has always been about confronting difficult issues our community faces. It is openly known that women on the internet are subject to far greater amounts and intensity of harassment and abuse than men. Okay, so the first issue we have here is women on the internet are subject to far greater amounts and intensity of harassment and abuse than men. This is simply not true. According to a study released on November 2016 by the Data and Society Research Institute and the Center for Innovative Public Health Research on online harassment, which had a survey size of 3,002 people, they found that men and women are equally likely to experience any harassment, but each sex is more likely to experience different types of harassment. Looking at the categories of harassment, we can see that men and women suffer from the same categories of harassment at different percentage rates. There is no overwhelming difference between the percentage of harassment males and females experience. And what I mean by overwhelming is women suffering, say, 30% to men suffering 5% in one category. This is a pattern and it's pervasive. Running this event, we have to be aware when a creator has potentially dangerous harassers or stalkers, and our list for our female creators is a whole lot longer than the list for male creators. Fair enough, there is a whole lot of crazy out there and you have to protect your speakers. That's just one reason why we had a panel called Women Online, featuring women who had received a variety of kinds of abuse, from repeated sexual advances to stalking to years of targeted harassment. Nothing wrong with talking about that and seeing if people can hash out some sort of solutions to minimize those problems. There is a fairly prominent genre of social/political commentary on the internet that focuses on specific individuals as a path to attack ideas and build outrage. Yes, there are certain individuals that put out ideas that others like to criticize or debunk. The intention is not to build outrage, but to present another viewpoint, opinion, or to debunk by presenting facts. These creators do not violate harassment policies, but the result is often that the vitriol of their followers ends up focused not on ideas, but on the people, usually women. The people who make these videos are not responsible for their followers' actions unless they specifically state that their followers should harass the person they are addressing. Many people in these communities end up believing the righteous thing to do is threaten, harass, and dox the thinkers that they're arguing with. Whether or not this is an intentional strategy to cultivate harassment or an awful side effect, the result is some of the worst discourse and most intense harassment on the internet. It is easier and less time-consuming to insult a person than to take the time to think about what they are saying or have said and come up with a well-thought-out rebuttal that you can articulate in a way that will get the point across. This year, we had a contingent of attendees, some who paid, some who snuck in with fake passes, who had been either perpetrators of this harassment or had for years watched as the outrage they cultivated resulted in followers doxing, harassing, intimidating, and even threatening the lives of the creators on these panels. Did you kick them out? Because I would have kicked them out. I hope the people who were the perpetrators of this harassment or who cultivated this horrible behavior have had their social media accounts closed. And I will assume that they have, because websites like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook have strict policy against harassment. It is difficult to imagine that this group of people, who are aware that their channels have been base camps for years of harassment of some of our panelists, did not realize that their arriving early to fill up the 3 front rows of the panel was going to be intimidating. Because it was not intimidation. Let me explain. For their presence at the panel to be an act of intimidation, they had to be doing more than just sitting. If anyone in the first 3 rows was pounding their fist in their palm, or running their finger across their neck, or silently mouthing a threat towards Anita, or any other threatening act aimed at her, then yeah, that's intimidation, and they should be removed from the audience. But none of that happened, and to my knowledge, prior to the panel, none of the people in the first 3 rows have ever made threats of violence towards her. They have only criticised her for her ideas. In any case, it looked like intentional intimidation to most people in attendance, and the panelists were understandably on edge throughout the discussion. During the panel, a panelist called out one of the audience members for being someone who made her life very difficult. No, she has made her own life very difficult and made a lot of money doing so, and wish she didn't have to give him attention because he was a garbage human. Look, we don't want our panelists to insult our audience members, even when we completely understand that the comment exists in a much broader and pretty messed up context. Even when people have said hateful things that everyone in our office disagrees with, we have a policy, and it exists not just to protect people at the show, but to protect our ability to have these conversations. What I think happened is that she was overwhelmed. She was overwhelmed by the fact that for the first time, as far as I'm aware, in the history of her doing live talks, there were people in the audience that she knew disagreed with her, and there were a lot of them. This would have been a new and frightening experience for her, and she got emotional, which you can see by her response in calling Sargon a shithead and a garbage human. Her attack was not well thought out, it was emotional and petty. Our founder, Hank Green, talked with our panelist and said 2 things. He told her that her comment had violated our policy, but that he understood that there was a broader context, which, to be clear, we were blissfully ignorant of until this weekend, and remain inexpert in. So it sounds like to me her feelings are more important than any code of conduct or policies you may have in place to guide the behaviour of your panelists and the audience, since you have not levied any punishment towards her. He apologised to her for not having been more aware of and active in understanding the situation before the event, which resulted in her being subjected to a hostile environment that she had not signed up for. It also sounds like you want to create a safe space, and if that is so, don't forget the ball pit, Play-Doh, colouring books, and a spot for people to take naps. Vidcon 2018 is going to be very interesting. We agreed that she would go forward and continue on as a panelist on a later panel. This is a difficult situation to build policy to alleviate, but we ask that all of the people involved consider the power of our actions and statements both online and in the real world. But one specific note, if people attend Vidcon to collect footage to later use in videos that criticise not just ideas, but focus the outrage of their followers on individuals, they will not be welcome back. My final thoughts on this Vidcon incident is that if Anita Sarkeesian and Sargon of Akkad both attend Vidcon 2018, then I think Anita Sarkeesian should apologise to Sargon of Akkad. It should be a private apology with only the Green brothers and security present. The public does not need to know that the apology has taken place, as it may well be very embarrassing for Anita. Just one more point. If she refuses to apologise, then I don't think it's right to allow her to sit on any more panels until she does. This is to make sure that the audience knows that you will not tolerate harassment or abuse at Vidcon. Well, that's my opinion on those events. Till next time, see ya.